CBS News national security analyst Aaron MacLean joins me now. I'm going to walk over to the full screen. Aaron, always great to see you. Thank you. He also hosts a very good podcast called The School of War. What's going on? Help my audience understand what is or isn't happening and how the U.S. Navy is going about it. A little bit of confusion about that.
There has been. So the president announced over the weekend, Major, that the United States would blockade the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this was a little perplexing because, as most of our viewers will remember, Iran is already blockading the Strait of Hormuz, which is this narrow passage right here between the Persian Gulf, the Gulf of Oman, and the Arabian Sea beyond. Now, Sunday evening, Central Command, which is the military organization that will actually be enforcing this, came out and clarified and said, actually, what's being stopped is traffic into and out of Iranian ports. Now, what this does is it will level the strategic playing field. Up until now, throughout the course of this war, ships with Iran's permission, and we presume willing to pay some kind of toll, a handful have been getting out. Nobody else is allowed to get out because they get shot at, many of them, if they try. Now it seems that nobody's going to be getting out, at least for some time.
Because the U.S. Navy is basically saying, what? If you move in this area, either here or here, we need to inspect you. We need to board you. We need to. How is that playing out ship to ship, vessel to vessel?
Right. So our Navy is going to be operating largely out here in the Arabian Sea and into the Gulf of Oman. This is where you'll see our operations largely taking place. The Iranians, of course, are currently in the strait itself. Ships, of course, are meant to broadcast their point of origin, their ultimate destination, the nature of their cargo. That's all meant to be information that's on public record. It may or may not shock you to hear, Major, that some of these ships lie, especially if they're taking.
I've read about that. Yes.
Yeah. So in addition to the publicly available information, our Navy will be surveilling what's coming in and out of Iranian ports. And you recall, we've talked a lot about Karg Island, this Iranian terminus point or transit point for oil. We're going to be keeping a close eye on that. This is, in effect, also a blockade of Karg Island.
Right. And there are a lot of vessels here just waiting.
That's right.
They were there before this got started, and they're just waiting. And they now know the U.S. Navy is there. So it's not as if this is an accelerant to ships moving through. It's actually holding up everything, which leads us to the question I kind of tried to get to in the monologue. Who can take this pain longer? Because if these vessels are still here 3 weeks from now, that means oil prices are still going to be high. Global markets are still going to be rattled. Who's going to have the upper hand?
So there's a race here, and there's two clocks running. One clock is on Iran's economy and the ability of the Iranian regime to pay its security forces who are blocking the strait. The other clock, of course, is the global economy. It's a bit like the Iranians have hijacked a plane, but the passengers are the global economy. And it's an open, blockades can take time. So that's a dangerous game to just let those two clocks run. I do wonder if we will see in the days and weeks to come more active American efforts to get the strait open to friendly traffic. You saw U.S. Navy ships transit close to the international lanes in the strait. I can zoom in on that just a little bit. Ships are meant to come down these white parallel lines that are running through the center here. You saw U.S. Navy vessels go through there on Saturday, very notably, potentially clearing or looking for mines. We'll see what's to come there soon.
Aaron MacLean, it's always great to have you and the touchscreen working together. Fantastic stuff. Thank you. I'm joined now by Nicholas Burns, good friend of the show. He served as U.S. ambassador to China during the Biden administration and ambassador to NATO during George W. Bush's administration. Ambassador, always great to have you. You heard our conversation. What's your sense of things right now, and what are you looking for in the next 2 to 3 days?
Well, we have a double blockade of the Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman, the Strait of Hormuz, as your correspondent rightly said. And this is something that is not unusual. The threat of force, the use of force, a blockade in a situation like this, it's high risk. Either side could move toward a violent act, particularly the Iranians, if they want to try to enforce their end of the blockade. So that's what's risky about this. But I think, Major, it might also help the negotiations. I think there was a very low probability that the Islamabad talks over the weekend were going to be successful. We had not met the Iranians at that level since 1978 at the vice president or presidential level. And I think neither side had interest in trying to make fundamental compromises. So what may happen is that as this blockade is introduced, hopefully there are going to be quiet talks, maybe even secret talks, we'll see, between the two sides to try to lower the temperature and to see if there's some kind of compromise that would allow both sides to claim victory in a week or 2 or 3 from now and avoid a resumption of warfare because, as you know, the ceasefire expires on April 22nd, just over a week from now. So I think that's kind of the deadline. That's point one, Major. And just one more quick point. It really is in the interest of Donald Trump to create a bigger global coalition to pressure the Iranians. And that's the Gulf Arab states right across from the Iranians. It's also the European allies and Japan and South Korea, maybe even China behind the scenes to put pressure on the Iranians to open up the Gulf to traffic without Iran being a toll keeper. And therefore the blocker of access. I hope that's what the Trump administration is going to do.
And Nick, let's reverse engineer what you just said. Walk my audience through the China part of it, and then how likely it is from your vantage point the Europeans become part of even a soft coalition.
The Chinese have a couple of interests here. They've been a close partner of Iran and protector of Iran for many years. They import about 1.4 million barrels a day. They import most of Iran's oil, so they're really important to the Iranians. The Chinese are not going to take the U.S. side. That would be politically disadvantageous for them. But the Chinese have a larger interest here. They have more invested in terms of money, capital, in the Gulf Arab states than they do from Iran. They clearly want the Strait open. So it could be that at the end of the day, the Chinese could be a voice, a factor in trying to push the Iranians. Let's hope. The Chinese premier, Li Qiang, said today, we want to be helpful in getting to a ceasefire and getting to a resolution of the Strait problem. And on the Europeans, I think it's on us. President Trump is angry at them. I think he needs to get over that and understand that if the Gulf can be opened, the Strait can be opened, the Europeans have said they'll put together a military coalition to enforce a peace agreement, i.e. in the Strait of Hormuz itself. We need their support. And I think the president has been unnecessarily antagonistic and critical of our NATO allies.
Very quickly, Nick, about a minute. I've read that this is on a knife's edge. That's a very important sort of helpful metaphor. One small thing, one act of provocation from the Iranians could spill this in a quite different direction. True?
It could. If the Iranians try to send a Shahed drone or a ballistic missile at one of those U.S. naval vessels, the United States would have to defend itself, obviously, and fire back. That could blow the ceasefire apart. It could lead to an intensification of the bombing, the Israeli and American bombing of Iran. Clearly, that's not in the interest of either side right now. They're both looking for an exit, and diplomacy is going to be the way that has to happen. So I hope we're going to see some quiet talks in the next couple of days between the two sides, probably with Pakistan as the mediator.
And some probably in the rearview mirror, we'll learn all sorts of interesting, unknown intermediaries. That's usually the way it works.
Exactly
Nick
right.
Burns, always a pleasure. Great to have you, sir. Thanks so very much.
You bet.